Mike and Steve, did you hear that?
Yes, we're good.
Okay, thank you. My clock just rolled to 10. Is that what yours says?
Yes, it does.
All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the talking head on the television this morning, and we will begin with a roll call to make sure we have quorum. According to our ordinance, we have to have 2 of 3 present in the room in order to do business on WebEx. I have visual contact and verbal contact, and that is a part of the requirement as well. I will ask the auditor to give us a call to order roll call count.
Okay, Mr. Burton.
Present.
Mr. Wright, here. And Mr. Bardsley.
Present via WebEx.
Okay, all 3 are present. 2 in the room.
According to our requirements by ordinance and state law, we can conduct a meeting. And next item of business, we would ask that y'all stand. And I believe Mr. Burton's going to lead us in prayer, and Mr. Wright in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, shall we pray? Our Father, we thank you for being the God you are, that you watch and care for us and guide us in our everyday activities. We pray you will be with us during this business session today. In your name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I think everyone's already seated. And we will move to the approval of current claims, minutes, and payroll. I don't believe we have any minutes for today's review, but we do have current claims that would be pre-approvals, as well as then the regular invoice edit reports for today. Gentlemen, I'm not sure if I read that off, but would you do the pre-approvals, please?
I've got that, Mr. Bardsley. Claims and payroll as of 7/11/22. The general is $95,980.87. Other is $23,344.45. And the highway is at $133,367.39 for a grand total of $252,692.71. That is the July 11th. On the July 18th, 2022, the general is sitting at $112,646.78. Others, $25,123.37. And the highway is $101,932.30 for a grand total of $239,702.45.
Of course, the payroll, number 14, we need a formal approval on that. We gave a pre-approval given on July 5th for the gross amount of $530,931.56 paid on July 8th, 2022.
It would be appropriate for us to act two different measures. First, the pre-approvals. We could do the pre-approval for the invoice edit reports and the payroll 14 that was a pre-approval. We could do a motion to approve both, to ratify both of those, and then we can handle the July 18th invoice edit report separately.
I make a motion that we approve those requests.
And I'll second that.
Right, we do have a motion to approve the pre-approval of the invoice edit reports as presented, as well as the payroll number 14 pre-approval. We're ratifying those, and so need a roll call vote, Mr. Auditor, for that.
Okay, Mr. Burton,
Yes.
Mr. Wright,
Yes.
and Mr. Bardsley.
Aye.
Does carry 3-0.
And that I was via WebEx. I'm sorry, but every time you vote, you're supposed to say that's via WebEx or via internet. So we have approved those pre-approvals, and we have the July 18 invoice edit reports that Mr. Wright read off as well. I would entertain a motion to pay those invoice edit reports.
Make a motion, Mr. Bardsley, that we go ahead and pay those edit reports.
I'll second.
Motion with support. Any questions on those? If not, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Burton,
Aye.
Mr. Wright,
Aye.
and Mr. Bardsley.
Aye via WebEx.
Okay, that's unanimous approval.
Thank you. And that is done. We move to the communication and board updates and anything from the auditor's office.
No, I just have an item on the agenda for later, but nothing else.
Very good. Do we have other elected officials in the room that need to update us, EMA or Central Dispatch?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning.
Quick update on the COVID this morning. We had another 14 cases reported today. I believe it was 50 some over the weekend. However, let me just finish up the numbers. So for the last 7 days, that gives us 159 for the last 7 days and 288 over the last 2 weeks. We try to look at those numbers over a 2-week span to try to see where we are. And actually for the month of July so far, we have 324. So we are trending in the wrong direction. We're actually getting worse. Dr. Moore did report this morning that there are several hospitalizations at this time. So there again, it's early in the year, so we're a little concerned that we're getting ahead of what spike we would see in the fall. So we'll continue to watch that. Not a lot else we can do differently. You can still get tested here at the health department. You can also get vaccinated here as well. So we just encourage folks to keep doing that, do the things we know that works, and trudge on.
Just a question, just real quick. Is that a new variant? Can we tell if that's a new variant coming into our area or not?
I don't have that information. I know
Okay.
Dr. Moore's working with the folks at the hospital. They send those. They try to send a percentage of tests off to get tested to see what variant we do have. I'm not privy to that
Okay.
information at this point.
Be interesting.
I'll ask Dr. Moore to follow up with
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Sure.
As I understand it, we're still wrestling with Omicron. To capitalize on what Bob has just shared, my text this morning was we have 11 COVID patients in the hospital, 2 in critical care. So again, those could be individuals that were at health risk anyway, but we have to continue just to encourage the community to make sure that they are doing their self-care, washing hands. If they have symptoms, isolate until they get a doctor to tell them they do or don't have that. We just have to keep taking care of it, even though we're past 2 years in this.
Absolutely. I do have one follow-up on the, from last week on the tower situation. So I did speak with Terry Burnworth, Mr. Burnworth, on Saturday, and then just a few minutes ago prior to here. They will be on site tomorrow to work at the upland site. As soon as we're done here today, I'll go out there and see if we had water infiltration due to the heavy rains yesterday. Would expect that we probably did, but there is a plan in place to correct that before the end of the week.
Good.
All right. Anything else?
Other questions for our EMA director?
No?
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Other elected officials or department heads? All right, seeing none. On to IT. I think we've got something in there from IT, don't we?
We do have something in there, but Mark is not here today to speak to that.
All right, so we will just pass on that. Is that our collective wisdom that we pass on that?
Yes.
Yes, at this point.
Okay. All right. Highway Department, is David, I see that orange shirt.
Yeah. Morning. The first thing I had to bring up is I have a unofficial detour for the state. This is for next year, a project that they're doing on State Road 15 north of Marion. The route that we'd like for them to use is County Road 500 north back to Francis Slocum Trail, and then back to 350 north Harold Road back to State Road 15 when they have this closure done. If I remember right, this is just north of the river bridge on State Road 15. They're going to do some construction out there, so if you gentlemen would like to approve it, it needs 2 signatures.
Do we know how long that's gonna be?
Usually it's like 120 days. Usually, sometimes they'll tell me later on. So, would you like to accept it or whatever?
Yes, we would need a motion to accept the NDOT detour as presented.
Motion to accept.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion with support. Any discussion or questions for Mr. White?
No.
No.
All right, hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Burton,
Aye.
Mr. Wright,
Aye.
and Mr. Bardsley.
Aye, via WebEx.
It's unanimous approval.
Very good. Gentlemen, if you don't mind signing off on that, that will work for me.
The next thing I have to bring up is the report of final inspection and recommendation of acceptance. This is for the Pennsylvania Street Bridge, bridge number 254, and I'd like to submit this to the state, just saying that the project was completed and everything was okay. So this is for that Pennsylvania Street Bridge.
Does that require a motion, or can we just do that with consent, David?
I would probably give it a motion since it's a federal aid job.
Very good. I would entertain a
Yep, I'll make a motion that we go ahead and have Mr. White go ahead and send that to the state. That's the motion that you need, correct?
Right.
yes.
Yes.
Second.
Motion to send the final acceptance report on Bridge 254. And if you have no other discussion, we'll call for the roll call.
Okay, Mr. Burton,
Aye.
Mr. Wright,
Aye.
Mr. Bardsley.
Aye, via WebEx.
It's unanimous approval.
All right, that's great. I know it's not a part of that actual thing, but do we have the sign ready for that bridge yet, David?
I was trying to get that made up so you guys could pre-approve it, but if you want me to, I can do whatever you'd like me to do. I can go ahead and make it, or just bring you an example and make sure you're happy with it.
If you can bring that to Mr. Burton and Mr. Wright, that'll be fine. You don't have to wait on me.
Okay, I'll get it made up and then I'll give you that, just to update you on a few other projects, they're working on the bridge on 1000 East. It's going along pretty well. We started paving today on County Road 600 South, just east of Upland. And I have the bid opening set for August 1st on the bridge here in Marion on Bridge 789. So that'll be open that day at 10 o'clock at your meeting, so working on that. So the only other thing I had to bring up was the building that I requested last meeting to have built at the highway department. I met with Mr. Wright last week and just would like to try to get that on the perspective if we could get that built. And I guess I'd like to see if we could use the quotes that was given for the last time and see if you'd like to recommend a company to kind of get on their radar to get the building built this year if possible. Update you a few things. I did check on the solar panels, some of that stuff. I kind of got mixed emotions. Everybody told me that paying the extra money for the roof to hold the weight. One thing bad about this is our building's gonna be facing east and west, and when you put it on a building, the panels don't rotate with the sun. So I'll be honest with you, I'd probably more likely to put it on the ground where the panels rotated. We've got enough room in our fenced-in area. I think I'd rather go that route than to try to pay for the additional money for the building structure and then also not be able to have the panels rotate. So I did check on that a little bit. So hopefully that'll answer some of your questions on that. So.
Question, Mr. Wright?
Yeah, I appreciated Mr. White's time there, and meeting out there and kind of showing me the layout of the building and stuff. And I didn't even think about that while we were there as far as facing the wrong way.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you checking in on that. I thought it was a great, something that a constituent brought up to our attention. We took a look at it, and we can still do another plan with the solar if we ever decide to go that way. So, but it was a good meeting. It's going to be a nice project out there that'll be good for you guys. I mean, we have stuff sitting out in the field, kind of rusting up and stuff, and we can actually get it actually underneath the building. So it's going to be good. So do you need a motion on that, Mr. Bardsley, or?
I think that we need a motion to move forward on that. And again, just the caveat, Mr. White has the money. Is that correct?
Well, that's one thing I would like to recommend is that you make the motion to go ahead and allow the lower company to build it. But I'm on schedule this Wednesday to go to the council to make sure I can get the money transferred before I give the final okay to start the project. So
you're looking for a pre-approval, more or less?
right, yes.
Yeah, approval pending council approval, I guess.
Right. Yeah, as long as the council approves on Wednesday, then I'd say we'd be ready to go, so.
I think that's appropriate.
You want the
Would you
name?
be willing to make that motion?
Yeah, I would make a motion that we accept the bid that we received, which I believe was the lowest bid.
Right.
And that's depending upon council approval this coming week.
Second.
Right. Any other discussion or questions, gentlemen? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Burton,
Aye.
Mr. Wright,
Aye.
Mr. Bardsley,
Aye via WebEx.
unanimous approval.
Thank you.
That's all I have today.
Nothing else to pick on Highway Department about? How the chip seal and how is the paving going?
Chip seal, we're kind of on hold. Paving, like I said, we started this morning, so we're gonna do that for a couple weeks and then go back, so.
Very good. No other questions?
Commissioner, I'd like to have your verbal permission to be able to stamp David's documents and these claim dockets.
With my stamp? Yes.
Thank you.
All right. We ready to move on to old business, gentlemen?
Yes.
And I see that we have nothing scheduled under old business at this time. Are you aware of other old business that we need to open up or review?
No.
No.
Under new business, we have a request from Hands of Hope, Linda Wilk, request for usage of the courthouse. You have that document in front of you, and is Linda with us today?
I am. Good morning.
Very
Morning.
good.
You ready for me?
Go right ahead.
Okay. What I'd like to do, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and last year, for the first time in a long time, we went back to the courthouse square for the event to kind of let people know that October is when we want to focus on domestic violence. We did what we called a Shine event, and we're either going to close, or we'd like to close, either Washington Street or Adams Street, depending upon how much construction's on Washington Street. Just that block. I worked with law enforcement. Chief Angie Haley did that for me last year, and we'll do it again this year. We'll only be about an hour, so it starts at 7. We'll need some time beforehand, a little bit of time after. Kelly Cheney, who has done my music for the last 25 years, will be there to sing the candle song. I'm hoping that each of you are there, the people in the audience are there. It's really important that we put a focus on domestic violence and making sure that people understand. We would like to also have the courthouse shine purple, so figure out some covering that I'm working with Justin to figure out how to do that, to change the lights to at night shine the courthouse purple. Ideally have a banner that's put on the courthouse lawn that says know the number, has our Hands of Hope phone number, and Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Again, wanting to do that in all the communities within Grant County and also Wabash County. Ideally have one in every small town to let people know about this event. We will need use of electricity, which we were able to use last year for the sound system. And then last year, and I'm hoping again this year, to have a great showing of law enforcement support. And then when we start the event, they will at some point have their lights going. And so again, shining a light into what can be a very dark issue. So do you have any questions for me about that?
I'll just bring up one thing. I work with the walkway lights, and we tried to use some gels on those lights. We couldn't find a gel that would not take the light down so much that it wouldn't really kind of shine up. So
Okay.
if you find that out, I would love to know that. If you find a gel that you could actually use on those, because we would love to make it blue, red, green, you know, through the winter season when the walkway lights is on. But we didn't have any luck with that. We used theater gels and stuff, and it just didn't work. So
Was there a maintenance person?
Vince is right there.
Yeah, I
They're
was gonna say-
testing something out tonight.
Yeah, oh, you are
Yeah,
testing
there's-
something
Awesome.
out? Oh, wonderful.
Transparent school folders that are plastic,
Uh-huh,
that are colored.
yeah,
They say those work really well. You just have to cut them and fit the lids.
okay. Well, I appreciate
me know,
you doing
Vince.
that.
And they're real cheap.
Yeah,
let me know, Vince. I'd really like to know that.
Yeah.
I really would, so.
yeah. Wonderful, I appreciate that.
Well, we appreciate everything that you do, trying to expose some dark type things in our communities, as well as all the communities that we have. And thanks, Linda, for your work on this.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We have a couple of different requests there, not only to utilize our power and either the Washington or Adams Street side. I don't think we have that as a concern since we've done it before, but at the same time, the request to put signage out, that is a very rare thing. We've done it for the Walkway of Lights, some of the major events, and there are those that we have turned down because they were protesting certain things. As a part of the county Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I think that it would be appropriate for us to allow a sign for the entire month. But again, that's something that the commissioners would have to wrestle with and say yay or nay to.
Does that set a precedent that you would be concerned about, Commissioner Bardsley, or not?
Well, I mean, technically, we set the precedent with the public activity from Walkway of Lights. That's, at Christmas. Very rarely we do that. Again, everyone that goes out there to protest, if they're out there on protests, we require that they carry their signage. They cannot plant that. But because it's a activity that the county is endorsing as a part of a larger national event, I think that it would be appropriate for us to do that. I'm just, be aware that we'll probably have folks that would, well, you didn't let us do that. Well, there's a difference between individuals protesting on the courthouse square and a major event that the county is endorsing. Thoughts? Other questions?
Do you need a vote on that or no?
We would definitely need a vote to approve that request.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we allow Ms. Wolf to go ahead and do that through Family Services. That would.
If I could just.
Yes, go ahead.
We merged with Grant Blackford Mental Health.
Okay.
So.
And to really try to promote the exposure per se to domestic violence in our community, and this would be a help to help others to look for that, to help you identify those problems. So I would make a motion that we accept the request.
Second.
We do have a motion with support. Any further discussion? Hearing none, if we could have the roll call, please.
Sure. Mr. Burton,
Aye.
Mr. Wright,
Aye.
and Mr. Bardsley.
Aye. Via WebEx.
That's unanimous support.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate that. And I'll get back with you. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Linda. We're moving to Chris Cunningham. Is Chris in the room with us?
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you. Steve, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you.
So this morning I bring to you a request for our Community Corrections Advisory Board. And recently in June we made some alterations or changes with the resignation of a council member who was serving as a layperson. And so we now have an opening on our Community Corrections Advisory Board for the lay position. And after consultation with the board chair and vice chair, we are suggesting that we appoint Del Garcia in that lay person position on the Community Corrections Advisory Board. As you know, earlier this week, there was no opposition. And since he will be the elected sheriff, we thought it important for him to have 6 months to be able to be involved with the local advisory board and the local advisory council to be able to know what's going on. So with the detention center and just so many things that he will have to deal with as an incoming sheriff, we thought it would be and then of course, once January 1st happens, we'll have another opening that would happen at that time because he'd move into the sheriff's slot. So that's sort of the logistics of how that would happen. But I'd answer any questions that you'd have at this time. Obviously asking for your approval.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion to approve, Mr. Burton, second, Mr. Wright. Any other discussion? Hearing none, if we could have a roll call, please.
Mr. Burton,
Aye.
Mr. Wright,
Aye.
and Mr. Bardsley.
Aye, via WebEx.
It's unanimous approval.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think you've got the floor, Justin.
Item 3, that request has been withdrawn. So moving to the request for cell phone allowance, this is to put Commissioner Wright for the cell phone stipend of $55 a month.
I think in our cell phone discussions, he is already getting, so I have no objections to us moving forward with this request.
A motion to approve.
I'll probably have to sustain on that, correct? Or,
I can second that motion. And you feel free to vote for yourself or not if you want to. That's up to you. But we do have a motion, Mr. Burton, second. So we'll go for a roll call.
Okay, Mr. Burton,
Aye.
Mr. Wright,
I think I'll abstain.
Mr. Bardsley.
Aye. Yeah, WebEx.
That's approved with one abstention.
Thank you. And we'll go to Jim and the Malcon.
Okay, what we have for consideration today that we're asking your approval is I'll say a renewal of our contract with Malcon Malinowski Consulting Incorporated to do the annual cost allocation plans, and this is for a 3-year period, 22 through 24. We paid for this contract out of our incentive funds through the Title 4D program. So we're asking for approval of a 3-year contract with that company, and it's one we've had in place for some time prior to this. The fee they're going to charge will be $5,500 each year. That is an increase over the last contract, which was 3 years ago. It was $5,000 per year, so that increase will be reflected in the annual payment. So we're asking for your approval to do that.
Steve, have you gotten a kind of a brought up to speed on this, that this particular company helps us to reclaim finances that can come back to the county, but the Malcon group actually does the research, does the paperwork, and makes application so that money can come back to us? Are you aware of that? Has anyone?
I am. Is this money that we've paid in and can come back, or is this grant money that we've received?
We have expenses through our 4D program. Those get reported through the state, and we get reimbursed for portions. Okay, and this is money that it's really kind of an indirect cost, money that the county has in expenses that we can submit for reimbursement for. They do the study and the presentation of the financials for that. Probably one of those things where you have to have somebody doing it for you. You aren't going to do it on your own. And they've done a good job for us in the past. And this is just a renewal of that relationship.
And the money coming back in that they find for us per se, because that's kind of what they're trying to do.
Yeah, they're not actually finding money. They're reporting our expenses to the state agency that then reimburses us for a portion of that. So in a sense, I guess if you want to say they're finding it, they're reporting expenses to the state that we've incurred, and we're getting reimbursed for a portion of those expenses.
And so where does that money go?
Into the incentive fund. We have a special fund that goes into, and it's used for specific purposes.
Okay.
Pretty detailed as far as what it can be used for. It's one of those things where there's no reason not to. You need to report it so you can get the money back.
Right. And so is there a list of things that we can use that money for?
The list is not as complete as I'd like to see it. In fact, you even ask the state, and sometimes they aren't too sure. Anything directed to that program, we can.
Okay.
It doesn't go beyond that too much.
Okay. We'll talk more about it.
Yeah,
I'd like
and to be more specific,
about it.
we probably have to get them involved a little more, but
Okay.
it's pretty limited.
Okay.
Okay, but it's one of those things where there's no reason not to do it.
Right.
It gets your money back.
If you were saying how much, you say it's limited, is it 1,000, 10,000?
Well, what I'm saying is that the purpose is limited to what you can use it for.
Oh,
We're getting back more money than it's costing us for sure. I mean,
Okay.
obviously their fee is not as much as we're getting back. We're getting
Okay.
back a lot more than the fee costs.
okay. Okay,
Okay?
all right.
So it's one of those things, there's no reason not to. It's a matter of who
Right.
you're gonna employ to do that for you. And we've been pleased with their service, so I would
Okay,
say we redo that. And we also use them for some of our EMS reimbursements through the Medicare program, through the ambulance services we have.
Okay,
And some of the other 4D type programs, we use them as well.
you know, when they're in town, I mean, if they're gonna be around or anything, like, do they come?
Well, yeah, they come on site when we do the annual work. They come
Okay.
on site. Obviously,
I love it.
you can meet with them or talk to them on the
Yeah,
phone, and those
just love
kinds of
it.
things as well. So
Yeah.
they'd be available to you if you'd
Just
like.
trying to knowledge up.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
it's one of those tedious things that, because of the government red tape, so to speak, you have them do that.
Right, right, gotcha.
All right. What is your desire regarding Malcon? I tend to agree that we need to continue our relationship with them. Just need a motion if you guys agree with that.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion to move forward with our relationship with Malcon with the agreement set before us. Further discussion, excuse me. Hearing none, for a roll call count, please.
Mr. Burton,
Aye.
Mr. Wright,
Aye.
Mr. Bardsley.
Aye via WebEx.
Okay, that is unanimous approval. And
All
thank
right,
you. Obviously, we need to do, I think it's not a question.
Commissioner, do you want your stamp on it, or would you like Commissioner Burton to sign it as Vice President?
I do not have a problem. If Mike's there and can sign, that's great. And I know Mike's there, so.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, any other new business that you are aware of, gentlemen?
No.
The one disadvantage we have with an owl is that it is very hard to see that upper line and see who all's in the panoramic view. So we are at that point where we can take public comment. I always believe that we have folks from Solar. I would ask that if we have any citizens that are here to address the Board of Commissioners outside of the concept of solar, to have the opportunity to go first. Do we have anyone to that? Anyone need to address the Board of Commissioners outside the issue of the solar?
Looks like no one's coming forward, Mark, for that.
Very good. All right. We are waiting for response from area plan, but if there was anyone who did want to make comments regarding solar, we will put together again about a 10-minute package so that we can give anyone who wants to talk to that about a 2-minute opportunity per individual. That gives us about 5 individuals that can talk. And I will start the clock, and anyone who would like the Board of Commissioners regarding solar, again, your name, your address, and your concerns or comments.
Thank you. Randy Atkins, 8560 South Wheeling Pike, Fairmount, Indiana. I'd like to address this to the Grant County Commissioners and residents. I have reviewed the APC-approved ordinance in draft 4 proposed by Commissioner Bardsley. My review has revealed the ordinance are considerably different. I have also attended the APC meetings, excuse me, where the ordinance development was the focus. I have listened to the concerns residents and farmers have shared. I understand we have institutions, residents, and businesses who have an interest in establishing solar energy systems for their benefit, which I have heard no opposition to. I have listened to and met with Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Wright has expressed a desire to acknowledge, to acquire knowledge by talking to residents, farmers, institutions, and businesses seeking to have a better understanding of their concerns and needs, realizing the critical nature of his decision and the realization the decision will impact generations into the future. I greatly respect and appreciate this approach, considering I have attended commissioners' meetings the past 4 months where the commissioners before Mr. Wright's appointment did not publicly discuss their thoughts in regard to solar ordinance on any occasion. I have also been following the struggles that our neighboring counties, Madison and Delaware, are experiencing. They have taken the responsible approach by placing their solar decisions on hold in an attempt to get it right for their counties. I question how it can be reasonable and responsible for a decision on such a significant and critical issue to be made in the next 28 days. It seems considering a moratorium to allow more study and information gathering on this issue would be the best approach. Monitoring other counties who have developments in operation and learning from them is clearly the best approach to avoid making the same mistakes, as well as learning what they would do differently if they were given the chance. We are no longer under or facing a timeline of mandated requirements by the state, which was the driving force behind the push to develop an ordinance in the beginning. I am confident counties are taking the watch and learn approach rather than the get it done and hope it works out approach. I ask, can we risk the possibility of not getting this right? Thank you.
Thank you. And I gave you about 30 more seconds, Randy. I just want you to know that.
And good morning. I'm Steve, Mike, and thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm Andy Ellis. I'm from 8320 East Jefferson Place, Fairmount, Indiana. And I've been following the nature of the solar implications here for quite a few months, as a lot of us have. A lot of our neighbors and the community have all been engaged in this and been at some of the previous commissioners' meetings, as you well know. And I too have been looking at draft number 4. In fact, we've seen draft number 4 before. And I know that the statement was made in the findings, I believe, at the last meeting, that draft 4 was like 90% complete, and it just needed some finishing touches on it in order for it to be resolved. Well, the 90% is probably the easy part, right? It's really, with coming out of the Solar Summit, working with the solar companies, and what would they like to see in order to enable them, to come in and really attack our community. Well, one thing it really lacked was community involvement. And I went to several of the Area Planning Commission meetings, and through that we came up with draft 5, draft 6, and ultimately we approved the APC approved draft number 7, which was what was submitted. Now I know that there's opportunities. When we take a look at that, we were trying our best to try to look at what are the concerns of the community, the property holders, what kind of rights do they have, as well as what it's going to do to our farm ground. So those are really key concerns of ours. And I also know that there was no real intent on anybody's part to really exclude things like academia. IWU and Taylor, I know, has been a little bit of a stumbling point here. I think there's opportunities that we can manage that. We've also talked about our manufacturers and what it means to them. General Motors, for one, has been mentioned. And I know very much that General Motors wants to be a community member. And it's important to them.
30 seconds.
Community outreach. So it's important that I think we find common ground here. And I think there's opportunities to do that, but I don't know how we can do that in a hurry. So I think there's opportunities to take a look at our manufacturing base as well as IWU and Taylor, academia, and have a good approach that we can all live with. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. We don't have to destroy our farm ground and people's lives in order to go green. So I would ask—
Thank you, Andy, you're over time.
Step back here, in all due respect, take a step back here and review what we're doing, because as we've always said, it affects generations. It's not just us.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Time has gone over the last couple times. We've got room for about one more comment.
Cale Grindle, 8132 Wheeling Pike, Jonesboro. I'm a small farmer. I started from literally nothing but a dream and help of a few friends, farmers like the Golfs and Atkins here, great people. The consequences of approving this solar installation will have a devastating effect on local farmers like me. I don't have the kind of capital as like some of the bigger guys that are wanting these installations. They bid up farm ground, they bid up rents. I can't compete with that. So me being a starting farmer, you're pretty much signing my death sentence by approving this. Second point is with the decision being in the hands of the few commissioners and not the people of the community, I want to take a moment for you guys to remember exactly who it is that you guys work for. It's not by these fly-by-night, out-of-state solar companies offering rainbows and unicorns. It's the people here in this room here telling you what they want, which is no solar. You're supposed to make decisions that are in the best interest of Grant County and people, not the shady out-of-state companies that come with promises of fake jobs and fake investments. These solar people don't care about the people in the communities. They're here for one thing, the money. Who are you guys here for? The people of the community or the money? Between the solar companies and citizens, who will still be around once these panels are installed and the dust settles? History says it's not the solar companies. They're out of here. They fold, they get sold, who knows what happens. They'll be gone, leaving us with broken promises and ruined landscape and nothing to show for it. Government inherently brings out some bad people, some good people, whatever. People want to voice their views on us under the guise of representation. With these big solar companies offering large sum of money for long-term projects, the decision to go against the will of Grant County citizens and for the solar companies will be looked at under close scrutiny. And I just want to ask what kind of legacy you guys want to leave as commissioners. Do you want to be for us, the people who don't want the solar companies, or do you want to be for the solar companies who will be here for a year or two and be gone forever? Thank you.
All right, we're going to go ahead and close that public.
One minute, please.
Got there. We have less than a minute left on our 10-minute window.
Okay, real quick, COVID come up, should have been there earlier, but if you're interested in COVID, Robert Kennedy Jr. wrote a book about the COVID. I suggest you read it. I'm really concerned about COVID or the solar. I don't think anyone here is against brown solar, but the big farm, I think, is devastating to our community. I want you to ask every one of your friends and family, how close do you want that solar farm to you? Because 50 feet, 250 feet, nobody wants that, including me. So I appreciate the time, and you've got a lot on your mind. Let's get it right, take our time, and do what needs to be done. I'm also over in Delaware County with farm ground. I have been through that since October, and it's been a fiasco. And I don't want that. I live in Swayze. So good luck. You've got a lot on your plate. Let's do it right.
Thank you. All right, that's going to conclude our public comment. I'm sorry, Ed, we're done. We just had 10 minutes.
I took off work to come here and speak to you. I would really like to speak to you, all of you. I don't know what we have to do. It's more important.
We're not going to talk down to people. I will ask, you just wait a minute. We will ask the commissioners if they want to continue public after we had set a time frame. Mr. Wright, Mr. Burton, what is your pleasure?
I would like to hear what Ed has to say, and the reason being is because I'm going to be spending some time with you. And I want to go through the ordinance that you had drafted up by an attorney, and just see what is in there. I've looked. I want to do this comparison with you. I mean, we're going to spend hours. You and I are going to go through this together, because I am wanting to learn everything I can about it. I do care about the future of a young farmer I've been out in the community. You can ask Randy. I've been around with him and talking to farmers and things like that. So and I know it's a hot topic right now, but I too want more time, and that's what I've been trying to do. That's the reason we had to send something back, because we couldn't accept what you gave us before, or else we would have passed it. So we had to do something to do that. It was an easy thing to go back to a revision document that was back in revision 4. I didn't look 5, 6, 7, didn't have time. 5 days is what I had. So my thing, I've asked farmers to give me a top 10 list. What's your top 10 concerns? Okay? But I'm also asking property owners, what's your top 10 desires of wanting to make more money with your properties? Now think about this. We're talking about farmers who are very, very concerned about it. And let me tell you, with going out with Mr. Atkins and going out with a landowner, and I'm seeing possibly how big this is, I too have concerns. I really do. But I got to get a whole picture of what we're doing. And you can't do that now, what is today? The 18th. I've had 19 days as a commissioner. So just work with us here, trying to get through this. And I do, Ed, I want to spend some time with you. I want to spend time to go through this and see where you're at with that. If you want 4 or 5 other people sitting around the table, I'm good with that too. Not one time have I went into a meeting and somebody brought in more people than what I thought I was going to get into, that I said, oh, no, I'm not going to meet. So I really wanted to understand this whole thing. I've learned more about farming in 16 days than I've ever learned in my life. And just one real quick story. I met with Wendell Cates, very concerned about the drainage. I would have never thought about that, right? Had I not taken the time to meet with somebody. And he was telling me, I said, what's so important about drainage? Here's a city boy, right? But he was telling me about corn and how if it's not drained properly, that if this one pops up and Junior here doesn't quite make it yet, that this one's going to start causing shade, sucking up the water, and cause Junior not to grow as much. Simple little analogy, but I got it, right? I understood that. So I understand how important drainage is. I understand how important our land is. I understand that we have Agricor, we've got ethanol plants, we've got grain elevators. We've got a lot of use for our grains that's done. I want to make sure we continue that. So those are the things I'm looking at as a commissioner, and I'm kind of getting into this and really understanding what my vote is going to do. And so I hope you give me the time and the wisdom that I need to make a right decision. And I can't do that with just 40, 50, 60 people sitting in a room when I got to talk to business, I've got to talk to landowners, there's a lot of people that this involves. Talked with one young lady who inherited a farm, and this is going to be her retirement. So when farmers are willing to pay $250 or $300 to a sharecrop type thing, and the solar's paying $900, what do you think about that gal? What do you think she wants to do? I mean, those are things I'm finding out. So there's got to be a balance. We got to figure out what that balance is. And so I hope I'm making some sense to people. I truly am concerned about the amount of land that I'm already seeing that possibly could be under contract. I get it. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. How can we control how much land we're willing to give? And I know I've had people tell me, what's the setbacks? This is setbacks. Well, let's take a look at that. I don't know. It's easy to say that would take care of it. Is there an amount of acreage that we could say, okay, well, who's fair to get that acreage from the solar companies? Who's going to sue us because we didn't do the right thing? So I too want to make sure we're making the right decisions on this. I want to make sure that we've got an ordinance that we can enforce, as well as an ordinance that passes the litmus test when it comes to attorneys. So that's where I'm at as a commissioner. Hopefully I'll get off my soapbox.
Thank you.
So when it comes to I heard, I heard Steve say that he was ready to listen for another 2 minutes. Mike, is that appropriate with you?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
All right, we will hear Mr. Hartman and then conclude our public comment. Justin, if you will do the count. I know there are delays with me trying to talk sometimes, so if you will monitor that. Mr. Hartman, please proceed.
Thank you. Ed Hartman, 2640 East 1050 South, Fairmount. There are great differences between the two ordinances that we have as a community and looked at quite a bit. The APC did a lot of work on this, a lot of good work with the community, trying to be involved and know if the community had tolerance for this. And what's the best land use for prime farm ground? Is it to feed the world, or is it to run solar on and put that land out of commission for possibly 30 years at least? The other thing is, what's the pros for doing this? I mean, why do we want to do this? The only thing I've heard is that there's a big amount of property taxes that could be available to the county. Okay, property taxes. Any economist will tell you taxing an economy does not make it go better. What makes an economy go better is the private individual and their business growing the economy overall, keeping the money in the economy. Money that is generated by the sale of electricity on these solar farms leaves this county. The ownership is not here. That money does not turn over again and again and again in this community, as the farmers' money is primarily turned over many times in this community with support businesses that support farming. If thousands of acres are taken out of productive farm use in this county, those businesses will see a decrease in business. May result in decrease in employment, obviously will result in decreased sales. That's not coming back, not for a long time. So, and the property taxes, when you really dig into it and look at it, okay, what if they get tax abatement? If we are so wanting them to come here that we pass tax abatement for them and say it goes for 10 years, okay?
We've hit
You don't get the
2
tax
minute mark.
abatement. But say then, the depreciation value from this solar farm
Past the
being
2 minute
sold
mark.
multiple times,
30 seconds and we'll call it.
it goes down in value. So as it turns over hands and as it's depreciated, much less revenue will be gained from it after the 10-year tax abatement period. There's not the big windfall here you're thinking there is. Don't buy all that smoke and mirrors from the solar companies. Check it out. Run the actual property tax plan. What would you get? What is it going to benefit? How's that going to benefit the community? I don't think it's there. Not compared to the money that's generated employing people over and over again when the money stays in your community. I thank you, gentlemen, for your time. I'm sure I could talk much longer, but we'll talk some other time. And I encourage us to talk in public meetings. It's beneficial for everyone, especially if there's a quorum of any board. That'd be 2 of you. Be easy.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, gentlemen, are you aware of other business that we need to conduct today?
No.
No.
I believe our next regular scheduled session is supposed to be August 1st at 10 a.m. And until that time, we will be in recess. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much.
Mr. Burton, just want to introduce myself again, Rich Taylor. Good to see you. Good to see you, sir. You doing all right? Good. Yesterday or today. Wampler's had harvest that will be meeting. We're not happy that you go out and meet them out in the field. Yeah.